Hi, this is Erin with Erin Gabriella. Hope you're doing amazing today. I am an entrepreneur, a certified Reiki practitioner. If you would like to book a session with me, you can do so on my Facebook page. I also have an Etsy shop where I have crystals and spiritually inspiring messages, so you can shop my Etsy shop. And also, if you would like to donate, you can also donate. I have links to all those things below. Also, make sure to like and subscribe if you like my videos. So today I want to talk to you about, from my perspective, the chief differences between religion and spirituality. So there's quite a few differences. For me, what I want to start by doing is defining what for me spirituality is, what I've observed out of the major religions, because again, there's a gajillion, lots of little religions out there. By little, I mean not as many followers. Religions out there, but there's the big major religions like Christianity, Islam, Judaism. I do not pretend to be like a religious scholar, but what I am going to do is talk to you about the differences that I see between a lot of major religions and the way that they're fundamentally structured, the spirituality that I practice, so that there's just some clarity around that for anyone who may be interested, who may be questioning maybe a different path and trying to figure out where they belong in the whole structure of the religion spirituality debate, especially considering because there are a lot of people who are some kind of agnostic or identify more as spiritual and not religious, but don't know exactly what that means. This can maybe help you get a little bit and a perspective that could help you, right? But continue to research and do your own thing as you see fit. So for me, what spirituality is the realization of and lived expression of your individual self as source. Source being, I don't like to use the word God because God is more of a religious thing and it can also polarize some people. So I make the choice to use source, the divine consciousness that created all that we see here. My form of spirituality is just recognizing that source is me and that I am a fractal of source, and working to understand, to nourish that relationship and to experience that relationship through my experiences within via meditation, self-reflection, questioning my own belief systems, loving myself and others, as well as that expression of source through other. Because the reality of the situation is source is everything, in my opinion. Everything that we see, everything that we feel, everything that we see is source, consciousness, personified or expressed. So for me, to be spiritual is to understand that realization in every interaction that I have with other source beings, otherwise known as other people, other animals, other plants, etc. And then to understand it within me and to continue to understand the complexity of all that entails, because it's almost, I don't want to say infinite knowledge, but it's almost infinite knowledge, considering the fact that the universe is continually expanding, continually learning, and continually growing. It's just to be able to put into words exactly the shape that relationship takes changes based on your lifetimes, your unique expressions, and etc. But that's generally the gist of it. Understanding myself as an expression of source and really living that out loud through my own divine expression in a way that serves and helps others. That is what spirituality is to me. So the ways that my form of spirituality, because there's so many different types of spiritual belief systems out there, the way that my form of spirituality differs from a lot of what I've seen from a lot of major religions, especially Christianity, because Christianity is just the ones I'm most familiar with. So if I hit something that doesn't cover a lot of other major religions, apologies. Again, not a religious scholar, but the big differences that I see between major religion and my spirituality is the following. Number one, I find religion to be very rigid, as in there's a fixed belief system. And if you don't agree with that belief system, then you're not going to be called a member of that religion. Like, for example, when it comes to Christianity, I believe a pillar of Christianity is believing that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior. I frankly do not believe that at all. So I can't I can't call myself a Christian and then also say that Jesus is not my savior. That doesn't go with the Christian belief system. For example, right? You have to believe that, or else you can't identify as a Christian. And there's so many different other belief systems and so many different religions, etc. Spirituality, on the other hand, at least the spirituality that I follow, is a very fluid. The divine consciousness to me is like water. It flows and moves and ebbs and flows. It has no rigidity to it or anything else. There's nothing that's saying like, you have to believe this, or you have to be this way, or it must be like this, or else you cannot be like a child of God or one of the chosen ones or whatever. Like it's so fluid and open. There's a large part of the reason why there's so many people who call themselves spiritual with so many different types of belief systems, is because it's so nebulous. I believe that Source at its very nature is infinitely diverse and nebulous. So to me, that more fluid nature, that more fluid expression is closer to the true nature of this reality, of all realities, and the true nature of Source consciousness itself than any rigidity, like it must be like this, so you have to believe this, or else, right? Okay, I look forward to the day when the birds just lay all their eggs and just kind of stop. I mean, I love birds, but they interrupt every video. Okay, so the second thing about religion that I've noticed as it differs from my personal spiritual beliefs is that religion is very externalized. The majority of religions always have some kind of prophet. A lot of them have some kind of preacher, not all, but a lot of them, especially in Christianity, like well, before COVID, you had preachers and you just sat there and the preacher told you how to interpret the Bible and then you went home. Like that's kind of how it worked. And if you studied it on your own, great, but I don't think a lot of people did, frankly. And then you also have the idea of an external God or an external being that is outside of yourself and separate from yourself that you must worship. That is the gist of how a lot of religions function. In contrast, my spiritual belief is primarily, it's internal. It's primarily internal. It's external as well, but it's primarily internal, because I believe that the realization of myself as Source comes from the realization of oneness, which is the idea that there's no separation between anything. Like there's no external. So like there's nothing up here above me that's almighty and all powerful. It's all within me. Like God or Source is within me, and I am again part of the all or the Source consciousness. So there's nothing above me to worship. It's me. You know what I mean? By taking care of myself and honoring myself, I am worshiping the divine. You know, that's all that there is to it, frankly. And as far as enlightenment, that is primarily an internal journey, understanding all the complexities of the way that I relate to Source and what all these things mean to me is something that I discover on my own from my own wisdom, experiences, and meditations. That's not to say that I have no help. I definitely have help in trying to understand. Like I definitely have teachers that I of my own free will choose to go to because I feel like they can help me with this or that. I definitely have friends, family, like every relationship that you have, even the relationship that you have with plants and animals is a teacher. So all of the things are there to teach you about yourself and about the world at large. So it's not like there's not an exchange, but it's not in the same way where you just get told kind of like how to be and what to believe. It really comes from within you, and as you become more pure, you become aligned with Source and all that means, and your belief systems become defined by yourself, for yourself, from your own free thought primarily. The third thing about religion, kind of going off the last point, is that religion is very hierarchical. There is always like the God, and there's usually a prophet, and then maybe you know, some bishops or something like that, and then the congregation or the normal people. I find that, frankly, I mean, I'm not trying to be inflammatory, I'm just being honest, to be a little bit of like a plantation style structure where you just kind of have like the slave master up here and the slaves down here. It's just, I don't like that hierarchy. I don't think that that's natural. For me, my spirituality is extremely flat. That doesn't mean that there aren't people who know more than me about spirituality and that I can't learn from. Again, I absolutely do have teachers, but the idea that's like someone's worth or value or opinions should be valued above anybody else's based on their space in the hierarchy it just doesn't have any place in my spirituality. Like, for example, I believe that Jesus was real. I absolutely believe that Jesus is a fabulous teacher. I do not believe that Jesus is above me in any way. I believe that Jesus is equal to me, actually, and that there's a lot that Jesus has done that I can do, frankly. And I just feel like, for example, in Christianity, if I were to try to say like I'm equal to Jesus, like people would freak out, like they wouldn't be able to take it because the hierarchy, like you're never above Jesus in that structure, frankly. Again, another thing about religion is religion has a lot of duality consciousness and separation, right? Again, like I know as far as Christianity goes, there's like a heaven and hell for good people. Like the good people go to heaven, the bad people go to hell, like the end, right? There's no middle ground, no in between. When my spirituality is about oneness, which is basically saying that there is no good and evil, there is no heaven and hell, there is only energy. And some energy works in a way that's loving and some energy works in a way that's negative or unloving. And those energies, any human being, frankly, can be a representation of those energies at any given time, if and when they choose, as they choose. End of story. Like it's all encompassed in source. It's not like, yeah, all of it, the good, quote unquote bad, quote unquote evil. Not only do they not exist, but all of those beliefs, behaviors, ideas that we may perceive to be evil exist within source consciousness itself. Like it's all of source in a way, frankly. The last thing about religion is religion usually has rules. There's certain standards of behavior that you should follow, like, you know, go to church every Sunday, whatever. I mean, everyone does it differently. My spirituality has no rules. You practice the way that you want to practice in the way that feels right for you. So that's a little bit of an overview. Hopefully that helped. I mean, again, quite the generalization, and I'm just going off the knowledge of religion that I have, which isn't much, to be honest, but is enough to be able to make this video. I love you and have a good day. Donate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Love you.